Good morning to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, you are audible, but the voice is a bit low.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning. On behalf of this forum, University Kurukshetra, I welcome you all in this platform, in this PowerPoint presentation competitions. And it is privileged for me to introduce you about WIS form Kurukshetra, University Kurukshetra. The Women in STEM WIS form KUK was established in 2019. This form was constituted with the frame of background to empower the women faculty of science, engineering and technology, life science, mathematics to carry their career and research without any hurdle. This form also guide them about available opportunities for their future endeavor. Further, this also provides a platform to identify the hurdles being faced by the women in STEM and suggest possible solution for this. Also, we promote the girl students from school, UG, PG courses and increase their scientific temperament to carry their careers in various streams of STEM through group discussion, interaction, workshop, lecture series, etc. And in the same line, we are hereby organizing different events in this year also. We have already organized 3 events: quiz competition, poster competitions, and storytelling competitions. And now we are in the fourth in this series. And today we are organizing the PowerPoint presentation. So, on behalf of WIS platforms, I welcome you all for today's presentations. And shortly, our speaker of the day, Dr. Anurag God, will join and we will have a lecture today. After that, we will have PowerPoint presentations in 2 different categories, category 1 and category 2. You have to be here in this meet for lecture. After that, we will have 2 different groups, category 1 and category 2. In category 1, you have to stay within this group, and for category 2 you will be provided another link for the PowerPoint presentations. So wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Shortly our speaker will join today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning जी, good morning.
नमस्कार डॉक्टर
नमस्कार मैडम, नमस्कार.
नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार जी, नमस्कार.
एक
Madam, should we start?
हाँ यस डॉक्टर सुरेश प्लीज.
Okay. So, good morning to all of you. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker today. Today we have Dr. Anurag Gaud from JC Bose University of Science and Technology, Faridabad with us, who will deliver a talk on the topic Ancient Indian Science and Inspiration to Modern India. Dr. Anurag Gaud is an associate professor in Department of Physics, JC Bose University of Science and Technology, Faridabad. Before joining this university, Dr. Gaud served for National Institute of Technology, Kurukshetra. Dr. Anurag has research work on functional nanomaterials, energy storage devices, and spinotronics. He has published more than 120 research papers in reputed research journals in India and abroad. He has handled 8 research projects funded by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, New Delhi, Department of Atomic Energy, Government of India. He was awarded Young Scientist Research Project Award by Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, and listed in the Marquess Who is Who in the World magazine 2011 as a distinguished achiever, published by United States of America in 2011. He has supervised 8 PhD and 60 MTech theses. Dr. Gaud is the editor of Applied Science Letter and reviewer of various international research journals, including AIP, Elsevier, IOP, Springer journals. He has also written 2 books on energy storage and conversion devices. He is also the life member of Material Research Society of India and American Chemical Society. He has delivered invited talks in India and abroad on different topics and also visited various countries including Australia, Singapore, Switzerland, France, UK, Japan for its academic and research assignments. Sir, on behalf of WIS platform Kurukshetra, University Kurukshetra, I, Dr. Suresh Kumar Dua, welcome you for this invited talks and invite you for delivering your talk. Sir, please. Sir, you are not audible.
सभी को मेरा नमस्कार. Good morning to all of you, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak of the occasion. So I'm just sharing my presentation. So is it properly visible to everyone?
Yes, sir, visible.
Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Suresh, for introducing me, and I'm very happy to be on this platform that under the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the WIS Forum is organizing the Science Carnival. And on this occasion, I will speak today on a, not only it's a very interesting topic, but this is the topic that we must know about the ancient Indian science. This is the topic where we must know that what is being done with this in the in ancient Indian science. because we are not knowing about that actually what happens in the ancient Indian science. And our Indian scholars during the ancient times means I am quoting this ancient time of the Vedic era, Vedic period. It was around 1700 BC to 500 BC period. So this was the time when the whole world was busy to get the food and water. But our Indian scholars, they were busy to resolve the secrets of universe. They have done wonderful inventions, wonderful discoveries in the field of astronomy, in mathematics, in medical science. But unfortunately, our young generations, they don't know about their contribution. They don't know that what Indian peoples have given to this world, because it was the period that Indian science leads the world science of the many centuries. So that is the purpose of this talk, that we have to know about the achievements and the discoveries, inventions made by the Indian scholars. And I'm sure once you will know about their work, you will feel to be proud as an Indian. So unfortunate part is that we are not giving them proper space in the literature and even in the scientific literature worldwide, because there are many things, many concerns that why they did not come into the picture. So you will know, I will try to tell something, some fact and some discoveries they were made by these Indian peoples during this presentation. And the purpose of this talk is only is that we must know, our young people especially, they must know, they must get inspired by the inventions of these peoples, that even in the modern world problems and the whatever is the progress in the modern world, that is also based upon the inventions made during the ancient Indian science period. So that we will discuss in this during this presentation. What about the importance of these inventions and achievements about the Indian scientists? You can realize that with this very strong statement, it was made by the Albert Einstein. And the statement was, he said, we owe a lot to the ancient Indians and teaching us how to count, and without which most modern scientific discoveries would have been impossible. So that statement is made by the Albert Einstein. He was, you know, that very most famous scientist on the globe. So he said that we have to be very much that the Indian the scientific discoveries, they are very important, and very important even for the most modern scientific discoveries. So we will see that that what kind of inventions is being done. We know that India, this is the oldest civilization in the world, and Indian civilization also have a strong tradition of science and technology as well, because the ancient India was known as the land of sages and seers. It is known that Bharat is the part of the Rishi Muni Parampara is being used. And as well as with this is also the land of scholar and scientist. If we look about that, we don't use the word scientist at that ancient time. We use the words Rishi. And Rishi, these were our scholars, because in the meaning of Rishi in English, this is the wise man. So wise man is called the Rishis. So they were the actual scholar, and they have done wonderful inventions in the ancient time. So this is the thing that India have done inventions in the field of science in the Vedic period. Vedic period is the period once there was the Indian scholars composing the Veds and Puran, and there is a lot of information about the science in these Veds and Purans. If we study them, you will find there a lot of secrets about the universe. There are a lot of scientific concepts are given in these Veds. So many theory and many techniques, they were discovered by the ancient Indians, and they have created and strengthened the fundamentals of modern science and technology. So even those concepts are being used even in the modern science and technology as well. So either this is the concept of the invention of the zero in the ancient time, or either India have launched 1,000 satellites in the space in the modern science. Our scientific people, our Indian scholars, they have done wonderfully in the field of science. You see that why actually these Indian scholars, particularly of the period of ancient time, you know that 1000 BC and all that, it was the year of 3000 years before. We are talking about 3000 years before. So in the modern science, whatever theory, whatever principles we study, so they are just give about the information of 300 and 400 years before. So those concepts are there because the history of the modern science was written with this 300 or 400 years before. But our rishis, they made wonderful inventions 1000 years before. But they could not come into the picture because the literature was there, but it was not properly to be placed in before to the scientific community once the history of the modern science was written. So because of that, and even unfortunate part is that Indian people, they did not read that literature. And because if they read that literature, then they could properly represent their case. But the foreign people, they have read the literature of the Indian, these scholars. And from that literature, they got the concept, and they have been published those concepts and theories by their names, by making certain modifications. So that was the unfortunate part, that we have not read the literatures written by these peoples. There may be some many concern that once the history of the modern science was written, India was under British regime. So that's why the proper space for the Indian scholars were not given. They were ignored, and that's why they could not become popular. But at least they are not, because some of the concepts, they were given by the Indians, but now they are in the name of some foreign scholars. So because of that concept, so that happens. But at least what we can do, we can see our glorious past. We have to be popularize this, so that our young generations, at least they could know them, they could inspired by their inventions, and accordingly the India now also can become the leader in the field of science and technology if we can be inspired with the glorious past of the Indian science. And everyone, you will feel proud to be Indian once you will know about the discoveries of these scientific peoples. Another one is that India, that is the evolution of the India, it is based upon a very unique society that is being attributed to the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam. So Vasudev Kutumbakam is the concept of the Indian society, and the meaning of this is that whole world is the one family. It is based upon this concept that whole world is one family, and the India therefore work for the welfare of the whole world. So that's why that Sarve Bhavantu Sukhine, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Paschantu Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhav Bhavet. So India that work on this concept that Sarve Bhavantu Sukhine, Sabhi Sukhi Rahe, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sab Nirogi ho, और सर्वे भद्राणी पश्यन्तु, सभी का कल्याण हो, माँ कश्चित दुख भाव भवेत, और कोई भी दुख का भागी ना बने. इस कंसेप्ट के साथ हमारे भारतीय स्कॉलर्स ने दे हैव बीन वर्क for the welfare of the world, and accordingly the lot of inventions they have been done with our rishis. Either it may be Aryabhat, Maharshi Kanad, Shrushut, Brahmihir, Bagbhat. So they have been contributed a lot, and they have been the knowledge of highest value in the field of science and technology, and put the India at the forefront into the all scientific development and advancement. So we will discuss in details about their inventions, what they have been done. So this is the period once the whole Western society, it was in the darkness. So Indian people, the discovery of the various scientific facts that which made by the Indian peoples, and the development of the scientific concept and discoveries that give the new dimensions and keep the India forefront of the knowledge hub for the many centuries. So therefore, if we see about that, what happens in the Vedic period, what kind of inventions is being done by the either Aryabhat, starting from the invention of the zero. And that Pythagoras Pirme, it was given before to the Pythagoras by the Bodhayan, by Indian scientist. and lot of inventions is being done in the geometry and all that by our, and you know that this kind of the all information is available in the Vedic literature. If we read our Vedas or Vedic literature, so all information is there about square, triangles, circles, and so therefore, and it was that related this Vedic period. It was started to know as the early 1500 BCE. So it was, that was the period, and once there was no concept of the modern science, this Pythagoras and all that, they come into the modern science. But this kind of all concept available in the Vedic literature, and even in the Harappa civilization, decimal system was already that was in use. Weight measure system, it was already there, and there are many astronomy and metaphysics concept. They are described in the Rig Veda. Rig Veda is also the ancient Hindu text of the Vedic era. So there all scientific concept are described in these Vedas. So, but unfortunately, that our young people, they don't read about them. They don't get much information about these concept. The concept of atom, it was also being traced in the Vedic period, that the material world is made by these different elements, Prithvi, Agni, Vayu, and Jal. So each, and the Parmanu, it was considered to be the smallest particle, which cannot be divided further. So this atomic theory was also given by the Indian scholar. It was Maharishi Kanad. So we will see this. And also in the medical science, the Charak and Srushut, they were the main scholars. They have been developed the surgery concept at that ancient time, and which is also being used in the current modern science by these peoples. So you see that Aryabhat is a mathematician. He was a great mathematician. He worked around 500 BCE. So in that period, he made wonderful inventions, and one of the most important inventions of all the time, it was the invention of the zero. It was done by the Aryabhat. And Aryabhat, he was a great mathematician, and by using this, not only he discovered this zero, but by using this, he had made certain mathematical operations. He also developed the decimal system for that how you can write the digits. He calculated the actual value of the pi up to the 4 digits, and this, by using these mathematical concepts, Aryabhat used these concepts into the astronomy, and he did a wonderful calculations in the astronomy field, and he wrote a book that was known as the Aryabhatya. It was the book he has written, and a lot of information is given about these astronomical concept in this book. This book is being translated by the foreign authors in many languages, like Walter Brookman is also one of the translated this book. So unfortunately, that the foreign people read that literature, but our people could not read them, and I'm sure that they got the concept from these Indian scholars' literature, and on that basis they have been given some concept, and now in the modern science they are being published on their name. They have been published in their names. So you see that Earth is the round. It was correctly propounded by the Aryabhat in the 1,000 years before to the Copernicus. Earlier it was known that Earth is in the center of universe, and all the sun, moon, they will be revolve around the Earth. But that was not the right concept. It was first time given in the by the Aryabhat. In the Aryabhatta was a literature that was developed. So he said that Earth is round and it rotates on its axis and revolve around the sun. So that is known as the heliocentric theory. So it was given by the Aryabhat. But you know that it is now in the name of Copernicus. So before the Copernicus, 1,000 years before, Aryabhat give this concept, and he not only tells about this, he also calculated the circumference of the Earth. He in the book Aryabhatya, he written that circumference of the book, it was 24,835 miles, and once it being measured by some in the modern time, so only the error is 65 miles. It is very, very accurately he have been calculated the distance, circumference of the Earth at that time. So you can realize that how strong they are in the mathematical calculations in the field of the astronomy. And Aryabhat also tells about that the moon is not self-luminous. He was the first. He mentioned in his literature that all the planets they are not self-luminous, but they are become luminous by the light of the sun. So that work in the astronomy is being done by the Aryabhat. He also tells about the solar and lunar eclipses. Earlier, there was a people say that the eclipses occurs once the demon put the sun into the mouth. So during that period, the eclipse occurs. But he properly explained that why this occurs once these moon, earth, and sun they become collinear, and moon in between to the sun and earth. Then these eclipses occurs. So that all concepts were given by the Aryabhat. So you can realize that how much he was brilliant, and what kind of these astronomical concept is being given into this Vedic period, into the thousand years before. That kind of the concept was given by the Aryabhat. But it was unfortunate part, the many things they are not in the name of Indian scholars, because of at that time there was no kind of the patent system, there was no kind of the properly publishing the literature. So those people, they have been written their own literature, keep with them, and because of that some people they may do the discoveries later after 1,000 years or many years, but they have been published in their name. And because in the modern science literature, once it was written before 300 or 400 years before, so then they become popular, and these the real inventions being made by these our scholars deceased, so that were ignored. Another name comes in the ancient time. He was the Maharshi Kanad. Maharshi Kanad is a notable scholar in the ancient India, and who is given the atomic theory before to the John Dalton. So generally, that atomic theory is in the name of John Dalton, but the 2,500 years before, 2,000 years before, the Maharshi Kanad tells about this atomic theory. He speculated the existence of the Anu, that is known as a smallest particle, which cannot be divided further. And this, he also mentioned about this, that it has the absolute two state, absolute rest state, as well as the state of the motion. So that theory was given by the Maharshi Kanad, and he further said that the atoms of some substance combined with each other in a specific and synchronized number to produce the Dvi-anu, that is the diatomic molecules, Tri-anu, triatomic molecules. So that kind of theory was given by the Maharshi Kanad. This is the atomic theory. And Maharshi Kanad specified that all objects in the universe, they are classified into the 9 elements: water, light, fire, wind, ether, time, space, mind, and soul. So that kind of inventions is being done with the scholars. Regarding to the laws of the motion, that they are how much they are important, the law of motion. But they are in the name of Newton's. We know the Newton's law of motion, and how much is their importance even in the modern science. All the movement, either this is the movement of the vehicles and all that. So everywhere, either we are launching the satellites, they are based upon the Newton's law. But these law of the motion, they were mentioned in the literature published, written by the Rishi Kanad. So the Rishi Kanad have been given about this law of motion in his literature in Sanskrit. So that was in Kanad, they have been given this about the Newton's first law. He have been written with this statement, this Veg Nimit Visheshat Karmano Jayate. So this is the similar meaning that has been given by the Newton's first law. The change of the motion is due to the impressed force. Similarly, regarding the second law of the motion, the Kanad has been said the Veg Nimit Pekshat Karmano Jayate Niyat Dik Kriya Prabandh Hetu. So it is also that the change of the motion is proportional to the motive force. Similarly, for the third law of motion, that every action always have equal and opposite reaction, it was also given. So, but unfortunate thing is that this either we cannot say that these foreign people either they got the concept from the literature of the Indian scholars, or either they have their own invention. But thing is that they have been published once the modern science was written, history of the modern science was written. So they have been said these concepts by their name, and they have just make certain modifications. But idea they may have taken with these concept or with these is written into these literature written by our ancient Indian scholars. So that was the thing about these major discoveries. And you know that Kanad was once the foreign people read the literature of these Indian scholars. So one was an eminent historian, T.N. Colebrook, and T.N. Colebrook said in his book he written about the Indian scholars, and his statement was that compared to the scientists of the Europe, the Kanad and other Indian scientists were the global master in this field. He compared that the Indian scientists, Indian scholars, they were much masters in their fields as compared to the scientists of the Europe. So because the inventions they have been done, and why this happens? Because our Rishi Muni at that time, they have a thought process. They are not just following to the any Western part. So they do the meditation. Accordingly, they have been done these wonderful inventions, and they have been giving the new concept to the world with their wisdom. So not only to field of this in the science, you see into the field of astronomy, the medical science, that is also one of the field. So in medical science, there are two things. One is the medicine, another is the surgery. So the Shrushut is known as the father of surgery. He has been developed the many surgical concept in India, and he has developed the more than 125 surgical instruments. They were used to make different kind of the surgeries. So the Shrushut also written a book, that is the Shrushut Samhita, written by the Shrushut in the 6th century BC. So that is being considered one of the most comprehensive book on the ancient surgery. So in this book, he have been written many concepts of the surgery, and he also mentioned about the various illnesses and their preparations and curing the different diseases with help of certain plants. So all that details are available in that literature. He was the expert of the plastic surgery. So he has, because at that time, you know, that it was a very common to cut the nose and ears as a punishment. So at that time, the Shrushut has the mastery on the plastic surgery for the reconstruction of the nose and ears. So he was very popular, and the first time he introduced the concept of the surgery for that. He also the expert for the performing of the cataract surgery. मोतियाबिंद का जो operation है that is being done by this physician Shrushut in the 6th century, and to remove the cataract from the eye, he used a curved needle, and that is known as the Javamukhi Salakha, and with that help he loosened the lens and pushed the cataract out of the field of vision. So these kind of the works, you see that they have done wonderfully at that ancient time. So it was a very, you could realize that how much was the importance of these Indian scholars at that time. And even in the current time, the theory of the concept of the surgery is being made by the Shrushut is being used in the modern age also. So this was that period once people, they don't know about any scientific development. They were just only struggling for earning their food and all that. But these Indian scholars, they have been developed these scientific concepts that much years before. So these were some of the surgical instruments. They were developed by the Shrushut. These are different kind of the surgical instrument he has been developed. Another one, Dhanvantari, he was in the very old time, very early to even before to the Vedic era, 3000 BC. He was the ruler of the Kashi. So his contribution in the Ayurvedic medicine. So he written the book of Agnivesha Samhita, and he suggested the precautionary measures to be taken before and after the surgery. He propounded the concept of Ayurveda, that it is of the three dosa concept of the Vat, Pitt and Kaph. So that concept was given by the Dhanvantari, and Sarir Rachna Vigyan that he has written, and it deals with the structure of the body, soul, about the Atma. He has written many things, and various shape and size of the various part of the body. So that is being written in this literature. Charak, you know that he is also one of the famous for the internal medicine. So his work was the Charak Samhita is famous for internal medicine. So he was well known for the treatment in replacing the artificial limb. He suggested the simple methods and remedies in curing the paralysis, leprosy, and cancer and blindness. So that kind of diseases he worked, and with help of certain plants, and they have been cured these very serious diseases at that time. Even you'd see that he know how to use mercury sulfur in manufacturing of the medicine. So even at that time he used these elements and prepared certain medicines for the cure of these different diseases. So Charak Samhita, you know that it is there is a lot of information about the Ayurveda in this Charak Samhita, and Charak authored the fundamentals in this book, and this is referred as the father of Indian medicine, the Charak. Charak was one of the first physicians to present the concept of digestion and metabolism, immunity. So that is all details he has written in this literature on the name of Charak Samhita. So Charak, it was an ancient manual on preventive medicine, remained as a standard work on the subject for the 2 millennia, and was translated in many foreign languages, including Arabic and Latin at that time. Similarly, the Bhaskaracharya, he was a famous scholar of our ancient time. He wrote the Siddhant Shiromani, in which he explained about the motion of the planets in the chapter of the Graha Ganita. So many calculations about the motion of the planets are written in this literature. He also written another important work, that is Karn Kautuhal. It was written and that which also being referred nowadays as a reference book for the Panchang. So that kind of calculations in field of astrology they have done. Brahmi is also one of the famous scholars, and he has done work into the astronomical work. It is written into the Panch Samhita and Brihat Samhita and Brihat Jatak. These were the major literature being prepared by the Brahmir. And Brahmir is also giving the concept of the gravitational force. He said that the earth that is being suspended in the sky, it's like that a iron that is being suspended under the influence of the magnetic field. So he tells about the gravitational force, and the Gurutvaakarshan concept he has written in his literature. So you know that this gravitational invention is in the name of the Isaac Newton. So, and he had said that Newton gave this idea that apple was falling, and because of that. But before to the Newton, the 1,000 years before, this concept is written in the literature, this Gurutvaakarshan concept. And not only by the Brahmir, Aryabhatta also have written about this concept. And Bhaskaracharya also written about the gravitational concept. But actually what we've done, the Newton have just formulated. The formulation contribution was done by the Newton, that the gravitational force is proportional to the multiplication of the masses and inversely proportional to the distance. So that formulation was done by the Newton, but the concept of that there is some gravitational force, because of that earth everybody fall towards the earth, it was given 1,000 years before, and it was written in the literature written by the Indian scholars. So that is the Brahmir also worked for the various diseases of the plants and trees. And you also can see that these Indian scholars, they were multidisciplinary nature. They have, you see that same, the Brahmir is worked in the astronomical field. He also worked towards the plant and trees and for the treatment of the diseases. So they were interdisciplinary approach they have been used, and accordingly they have done the wonderful inventions. Similarly to the, it is also being said that Bhaskaracharya also mentioned about the concept of this gravity, that object fall on the earth due to a force of attraction by the earth. So therefore earth, planet and constellations, moon and sun, they are held in orbit due to this attraction. So it was also given by the this concept by the Bhaskaracharya in the Surya Siddhant, that is around 400 to 500 AD. So these concept was there in the area. Similarly, not only to the female also have been contributed in the field of science and technology into the ancient time. So Leelavati was a very famous scholar of the ancient period. Leelavati was a great, she was a daughter of the great mathematician Bhaskaracharya. And she worked with the Bhaskaracharya, and she has developed a lot of literature in the mathematics. So there is a book, Leelavati, it is written by the Bhaskaracharya. So there is a great contribution of this Leelavati for the in the mathematical literature being prepared at the ancient time. Nagarjuna is also one of the famous scholar of the ancient period, Vedic period, and he has done work in the chemistry. Actually, what was the target of the Nagarjuna? He worked that he will develop the gold from all the metals. So he worked on that concept. So however, he could not succeed to do that, but gold plating was the technique he has developed. And you know that even nowadays the gold plating concept is being used. So that was done by the Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna also wrote many famous books. One of the most famous is the Ras Ratnakar. Ras Ratnakar is the book which is used even in nowadays in India's Ayurvedic colleges. There is a lot of information about the Ayurveda in this Ras Ratnakar, because he also worked, he did a lot of works into the chemistry and this use the plants and all that for the treatment of the diseases. So he worked in the Ayurveda. Another work that was famous, he has done burning of the metals. He burned the metals like iron, tin, copper, gold. So they burn them, and by the burning, what happens? The property of these metals got changed. It is a similar concept nowadays we use about this nanotechnology. That is, we say that it started around 2000. So you see that in the similar concept was there. They burn that and they functionalize these metals, because once you are burning them, they come to the atomic level. And because of the atomic level, once they come, their efficacy got changed. That actually done in the medical science. Even in the modern science, what we do, we are making the nano drugs. So nano drugs are what? We are developing the drugs at the nanometric level. We are bringing them to the atomic level. So then they will become functionalized. And by the functionalization, their efficiency improved. And because of that, they become very popular. You know that in the ancient time, what we do, we will make the kajal formation. And how we make the kajal, we will burn the hydrocarbons. We take the oil, either this is the mustard oil, that was a very common practice even into the 30-40 years before that. We use this mustard oil to make the kajal. So what happened? We burn this oil and we collect the fumes of this burning process at the upper side. So that was a very fluffy material. Actually, that is the carbon. But this carbon is basically, it is a functionalized carbon. So because of that normal carbon, it may create problem into the eyes, but this is functionalized carbon. So because of that, it property improved and it helped in the curing the eye diseases and all that. So it is the similar concept was used. The Nagarjuna work in that concept. They have burned the metals, gold, iron. You see that bhasm and all that, how they are being formed. Bhasm formation, it was also similar kind of the burning of metals. So by the burning, their efficacy improved and now they become the medicine. And then they are very, very useful in the treatment of the different diseases. So that kind of brilliant work was done by the Nagarjuna at that time in field of the medical science and chemistry. Similarly, the Parashara, he worked in the botany and around 5,000 years back. And in the sage Parashara, this Maharshi Parashara is called the father of botany. He classified the different plant families 2,000 years before. And Parashara also described the plant cells. They are being, their usage also have been described. So these were some of the inventions we have been discussed were done during the ancient or Vedic era. Now we discuss some of the inventions is being done by the Indian scholars before independence period, before and close to the independence period. So one of them was Mahendra Lal Sarkar. He worked during this period 1833 to 1904. So he was basically a medical doctor and he was worked in field of medicine and he also have been founded the Association of the Cultivation of Science. So there are many. Srinivasan Ramanuja, you know that he was a great mathematician and he has done a lot of work in pure mathematics. He made the substantial contribution to analytic number theory, elliptical functions, infinite series, and he started posing and solving the problems in Journal of Indian Mathematical Society. So he has solved the problems of all this. His research paper on the Bernoulli numbers in 1911 brought him the recognition and he became well known in the Chennai as a great mathematical genius. So there are a lot of work is being done by the Ramanujan. He went to the Trinity College, Cambridge, called by the Hartley. He was a very G.H. Hartley, a famous professor of mathematics from Cambridge University. And there he worked there and elected as a fellow of the Cambridge Philosophical Society and the Royal Society of the London in Trinity College. So these were the scholars, Indian scholars. They have been done wonderful work. Another one, it was the Jagdish Chandra Bose. Jagdish Chandra Bose is a very famous Indian scientist. So he worked in the field of radio and microwave optics. Along with this radio and microwave optics, he also worked on the plant science. So plant science, he was a great physicist, but also worked into the plant science as well. He was the first person who say that plants have the life. Plants, they have the life, they breathe. And not only he made this statement, he experimentally proved because he was a physicist, he was an experimentalist. So you know that in that way the multidisciplinary nature helped to do some best in the field of science. So he developed a experiment and that is known as the crystallograph, and with that help they measured the growth of the plant and he proved that the plant has the life. So he experimentally also demonstrated with designing their experiment, and he has designed their own experiment. And this crystallograph developed by the Jagdish Chandra Bose, it was a great demand in the Europe. So you can realize that at that time, even the Indian instrument they were developed by the Jagdish Chandra Bose was demanding in the Europe. So nowadays we see that India is most of them we are importing the instrument from abroad. So at that period, these people have been developed their instrument in their lab, and they were also exported to the foreign countries. So this he also wrote the Bengali science friction and the invention of the crystallograph, that is a device for measuring the growth of the plant. So that is very famous. And he also founded this Bose Institute in 1970, the first interdisciplinary research center in Asia. And he was also the director of Bose Institute. So that because they were also the teacher of par excellence, that he was not only a good researcher, but they have been developed the culture of science in India. And so there was a good teacher as well. And there was always fight to sit in the class of J.C. Bose, that who will sit in the first row, because his way of teaching was so nice, and he experimentally prove all the concept he has been done. Many apparatus he has developed in his lab. Crystograph is one of them, that is used to measure the growth of the plant. Microwave apparatus to study the response in living and non-living things. Photosynthesis bubbler. So there were some many inventions is being done by Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose in the research. Another name is the Praful Chandra Roy. He was also a great scientist. He worked in the field of chemistry, and especially the nitrites and hyponitrites of the different metals he worked. So the synthesis of ammonium nitrite in pure form, he has been worked and synthesized. And he's also the founder of Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals of India's first pharmaceutical company he has developed. So this he wrote a history of Hindu chemistry from the earliest time to the middle of the 16th century. So that kind of, he established the Nagarjuna Prize for the best work in chemistry. You know that there was a lot of contribution of the Nagarjuna in the field of chemistry. As I stated earlier, he developed the different compounds. He functionalized them by the burning process and make the medicines. He made the medicines by this process of the different works. So Nagarjuna Prize was established by Praful Chandra Ray, and also he was a teacher par excellence. So naturally, these peoples, they are good teacher as well. They have been done wonderful research, and they have been also become the leader in field of the science. Satyendra Nath Bose, he was also a very famous name. And you know that this picture shows that some of the students of Jagdish Chandra Bose, that they are N.C. Nag, J.C. Bose, M.N. Saha, S. Datta, front row. So these are J.N. Mukherjee, S.N. Bose, D.M. Bose. So you know that all these scholars, so these all are being, these are Jagdish Chandra Bose not only done wonderful work by own, but he has made a series of the scholars. He produced a series of scholars. They have been contributed a lot in the Indian science. Either, you know that either it is S. Datta, Meghnath Saha, and either Satyendra Nath Bose, either D.M. Bose. So all these were the great Indian scholars is being produced by the Jagdish Chandra Bose. So you know that whatever we are doing, suppose we have some excellent scholar, so we are not only contributing by their own, but this is also that we are giving a legacy so that our coming generations, we are prepared to serve the country by the science and technology. So what has been done by the S.N. Bose, Satyendra Nath Bose, you know, he's worked on the quantum mechanics, collaborating with Einstein. You see that at that time he was working with Einstein, and he has developed many concepts. They are with the name of Einstein. Bose-Einstein statistics, you know that how the Bose particles are distributed in different energy levels. So therefore the bosons, you know, very famous. You see that. And Bose-Einstein condensation is the phenomena that how the fourth state of matter is developed with this process. So that kind of work is being done by the Satyendra Nath Bose. So he was a great physicist. He worked in the physics, mathematics. So that was, he also founded Science Association for the Bengal. He also served for the many research and development committees in India. Meghnath Saha, you know that he's the very famous scientist known for the Saha ionization equations used to describe chemical physical conditions in stars. He also founded the Institute of Nuclear Physics, and he wrote papers in history and archaeology also. One of the Anandbai Joshi, the women's also contributed in that area at that time. So she was the considered India's first female doctor and was one of the earliest female physicians in India. And he has done wonderful work in this field. And by recognizing the achievements of Anandibai Joshi, the Queen of the England, sent a congratulatory message for her achievements, and she became an inspiration to the generations of the women to pursue their education. C.V. Raman, he was, because without mentioning the name of C.V. Raman, we could not complete the series of Indian scholars. So C.V. Raman, the Indian scientist who received the Nobel Prize in 1930 for his invention of the Raman effect. And this Raman effect, is very, very popular. And in the material science, the Raman spectrometer that is being used to determine the molecular structures of the different compounds. So this C.V. Raman is very famous, and the Raman scattering is the phenomena, and this is being developed by the Raman, and he employed the monochromatic light, and how these once penetrate, this light fall over some material. So how this different the scattering lines he got, and accordingly he explained this Raman effect and for this work, because by using this Raman effect or developing this Raman spectrometer, there were many compounds. Their molecular structures were defined, and because of realizing the importance of this discovery, Raman were awarded the Nobel Prize in 1930. So this Raman effect is considered a very significant in analyzing the molecular structures of the chemical compounds. And about after the discovery of this Raman spectrometer, the structure of more than 2000 compounds were studied. S.S. Bhatnagar was also the great Indian scientist, and he was the DG of CSIR. He worked a lot in the field of science. S. Chandrasekhar, Indian-born American scientist who won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1983. Chandrasekhar limit, it's a very famous terminology, is given by this. Hargobind Khurana created genes in the laboratory and developed the genetic code. He was also awarded Nobel Prize for the medicine in 1968 and also awarded the Padma Bhushan Award by Government of India. Satish Dhawan, he was the chairman of ISRO at that time. And you know that the first satellite, it was launched in 1975 by however, it was launched in Russia, but it was the first satellite was developed in India, and it was given the name Aryabhatta. So realizing the importance of the Aryabhatta work, because Aryabhatta work in the astronomy, lot of concept he has given. So to give the respect or honor to the Aryabhatta, so the name is being given for this first Indian satellite that was launched in 1975, Aryabhatta. Homi J. Bhabha, he was largely contributed to the development of atomic physics, and he had set up the nuclear reactors in India, and you know that how they are important. They are nuclear reactors for different electricity or power production. So these were the people, they have been lead to the Indian science, starting from the Raja Ramanna, great nuclear scientist, and he was very instrumental once the India first nuclear explosion was occurred at Pokhran range in 1974. APJ Abdul Kalam, he was also contributed into the aeronautical field. So BrahMos missile, he was known as the missile man, by the name of the missile man. So there is a lot of contribution of APJ Abdul Kalam in development of the BrahMos missile, and also into some vital role as a project director to develop the satellite launch vehicles, SLV-3. And so these, he were awarded the Padma Bhushan Award and the highest civilian Bharat Ratna Award to the APJ Abdul Kalam. So these were some of the discoveries pre-independence. Even post-independence, a lot of development is being done into the Indian scenario. So the purpose of this is that we have to be the practicing Indians in true sense. So the purpose to know that what is being done by our Indian scholars in past, that we must get them inspiration. And what we have see that Indian peoples, they were leading to the Indian science in decades, particularly into the ancient time, but unfortunately they did not get proper space in the literature or in the history of modern science region. There are many regions because these inventions were done very, very early. Once the people, there was no there was no proper knowledge about to the peoples about the science and technology, and that literature that could not come forward. And also, once the modern history was written, there was monopoly of the Western people, so they have not given the proper space for the Indian scholars. And even by consulting the literature of Indian scholars, they have been given those concepts by their name, published by their name with certain modifications. So that was the occurs. But this, and we can know that these our Indian scholars, they were interdisciplinary approach they have been followed, because nowadays we are also talking about either it is new education policy that we must follow the interdisciplinary approach. So that was concept already these people have been introduced, because they have worked either they, like you could know that J.C. Bose, Jagdish Chandra Bose, he was one side he was a physicist, another side he was thinking about that plant has the life, and he proved by the developing an instrument. So this concept was given interdisciplinary approach by this our scientists. So another thing is that they were institutional builders. Many institutes are developed in the India. They are contributing for developing the science, and as well they were teacher first. They was a great teacher. He was prepared a series of the scholars. They are continuing in the field of science. So the P.C. Ray, he published in the Journal of Facial Society of Bengal, and that is noticed by Nature. So you could realize that how much is the significant work these people have been published. That is also being get recognition through the Nature, the most important journals. So therefore, this the define the Indian science independent to the frame of reference to the Western science. So therefore, this what is asked for to do means what we can do with this. So first thing is that be proud of our legacy, but don't just stop there. So that's the thing that we must proud on our legacy, and we also get the inspiration that we can do something significant that could lead to the world. So therefore, with this approach, we have to work, write about them in our own language. So naturally, you know that our thought process start because our way of thinking, whatever we are thinking, so we think in our own language or in the mother tongue, and then we convert this into the English and all that. So naturally, our natural thought process, it comes to our own language. So we must know them and speak about them to children, student, and civil society. So that is also important that we have to popularize the work of our Indian scholars to our children's student society for the inspiration purpose, so that they could do something significant in this area. In our personal life, try to pursue excellence in small things that we can do. Whatever is our field, we should try to get excellence in that area. And like if you are doing research, so please do that. It can have some societal impact, and we have to work for the society, teach science effectively, and make students that they could love to the science, do science in our own language, and flood with internet with authentic information about our scientists. So that is, we have to give a proper information on the internet and the other social media platforms as our scientists work and what they have done. So that we can do. So with this, in serving my favorite science, it was the statement given by the Praful Chandra Ray, In serving my favorite science, I have only one thing in my mind, namely that through her I should serve my country. So whatever we are doing, so we have to be in our mind with this concept that I am doing this for my country. I am serving this for my country. So work towards the welfare of India and say proudly, I am Indian. So with this brief, I say thank you to everyone for listening me, and so I hope that you may have some facts about the Indian scholars. They have been worked for the Indian science. So thank you so much for listening me and giving your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Ancient Indian science and inspiration to modern world. The topic in itself is very inspirational and motivational to listen. Thank you, sir, for enlightening us about how the Indian science prepared the basis for many inventions of the world. This is really a proud feeling for us to listen to the inspirational words from you. It was an eye-opening talk regarding our glorious scientists who worked hard and wholeheartedly to raise the standards of science in India and all over the globe. It is really sad on our part that we don't put value on our oldest literature in Vedas written by our eminent scholars, the rishis, which have not got their due value in the modern science. But it's now our duty that we all should motivate ourselves, our students, and our coming generation to read these Vedas and get acquainted with our glorious ancient Indian science, whether it is in the field of mathematics, astronomy, astrology, medical sciences, Ayurvedic sciences, botany, chemistry, many more, and love it. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking a time out of your busy schedule to be the guest speaker at our event. Your presence and wise word help magnify our cause in the best possible way. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Pooja ma'am, and thank you, Suresh sir. Now we may start our next session. So, master students, the students of MSc, MTech, M Pharma should remain in this link. Okay, they will present their slides within this link only. And the research scholars, please join the another link that is shared on your WhatsApp or Gmail. Okay. So students of MSc, MTech, M Pharma, master students, please be with us. Okay.
All the research students, please join their